Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Hey, everybody, how you doing? Thursday, August 19th, Dion's Daily Dose. So, got a few things to cover here today. First of all, I want to kind of take you along on the journey that I've been on to determine how this Delta variant is tracked, right? How do we know? Because we're being told, everybody is being told that the Delta variant is what's causing all of the higher numbers. It's causing the needs for the lockdowns, for the shots. We're being assured that it's because of this uptick in Delta variant cases. So what I decided to do was to find out, how do they know? How do they know that it's the Delta, and how do they test for it? So I'm going to share with you what I have found out. It's interesting. There we go. Nope. There. Okay. So first of all, it's a pretty simple question. How do you test for Delta, right? What is involved? And it's actually pretty interesting. Detecting the Delta variant or other variants requires a special type of testing called genomic sequencing. Now that's important because these regular tests, these PCR tests, even these quick tests, don't tell you the variation. They just say positive or negative for COVID-19. Okay, so here's what I did. I said, okay, so LaPorte County Health Department is wanting to reinstate mask mandates because of all these Delta cases. So I called the LaPorte County Health Department and I asked, hey, so these COVID tests that people are checking, first of all, does the LaPorte County Health Department have access to a genomic sequencer? And I was informed that actually LaPorte County Health Department does not test. They don't even test positive or negative at all. They send everything to the state. Now, okay, so you don't even run the regular tests. Nope. Everything is sent downstate to the Indiana State Department of Health. Okay, Indiana Health Department. So I looked up the Indiana Health Department. Now, I was given a phone number to call, and I also tried this one. Now, when you call the health department, now let me give you the number that I was given, just so you know, you can do it yourself, because I believe very firmly in allowing people to do their own research and check into things on their own. The State Department of Health number that I was given by the LaPorte County Health Department is 877-826-0011. Again, State Department of Health number, if you want to take it down. This is the number that I was given by the LaPorte County Health Department, 877-826-0011. So I call that number. It's an automated line, and all it does is say if you're a doctor, or if you are a school or school health provider, press 1. For any questions about COVID-19, press 2. So you press 2 because I'm not gonna circumvent the system. I'm not a school health provider or anything like that. So you press 2 and you go through those prompts, and essentially it tells you we're going to send you to Indiana 211 for all COVID-related questions. Indiana 211. Now, for those of you not familiar with what 211 is, you pick up your phone, you hit 211, and it is a resource information center that will help you to find rental assistance, NIPSCO, all this stuff. So it's an information resource. Great. So I called them. Well, I actually followed the prompts. I didn't disconnect. I just followed the prompts. And eventually, because I've tried it a couple of times, the first couple of times I tried it, I was on hold for an inordinately long amount of time. So I called back. And I was able to talk to someone today. Now, interestingly enough, this person had no answers for me. I didn't expect them to. And I told them, I said, look, this is not about you. We appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. But what I'm trying to find out is what percentage of tests that are sent are ran through the genomic sequencer. It can't possibly be every single one, right? Because that would create a very large backlog. So if all tests are not ran through the genomic sequencer, what percentage are ran? Where are we in the backlog? Are we running tests from March? Are we running tests from January? Are we current? What percentage is run? Where is it farmed out? Is it ran at the Department of Health? These are all questions that I think the average citizen should know the answers to, that we should be able to at least get the answers if we want them. Unfortunately, she could not answer my questions. What she suggested after speaking to her supervisor was that I contact the contact tracing department, which she was happy to put me through to. So I talked to contact tracing, and lo and behold, they didn't know the answers either. They actually suggested, well, I want to make sure I get this right. Again, this is quite a long time on the phone back and forth between these people, but they suggested that I go back to the State Department of Health line, the number that they gave me, and try to get an operator. Now, there's no option for an operator there. She actually recommended that I try all the different buttons. I'm not looking to create a backlog on their system for schools and school administrators who actually need help, school health providers. What I am trying to do is find someone who can answer my questions. Then she suggested that I reach out to the Epidemiology Resource Center for the Indiana State Department of Health. I did so, but by the time I was able to get down through that, they were closed for the day. I will be calling them tomorrow, and I will let you know what I'm able to find out. I think these are important questions. Especially if we're being told that this particular strain is predominant, that this particular strain is responsible for additional mask mandates and things of that nature. Now, I do want to give a couple caveats here. First of all, luckily, the departments of health are no longer in charge of whether there are mask mandates. That actually has to go through the local county commissioners. And so far, thankfully, the commissioners have not ruled a mandate necessary. The next thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to be doing an upcoming series on training in our local, as in town, city, and county police departments. What training? I actually posted a video on my personal page of a young man that was confronted and had police contact, and this young man was autistic. He was on the spectrum, and the police had no idea how to deal with this. There's no training involved there. And this was confirmed by another individual who works in a Northwest Indiana city as a police department. He has agreed to come on the show, and we'll have him on while we're doing this series. But the important thing for me is, look, I'm going to give you a few. I'm going to give you a few statistics. Let's look it up while we're here. Rising cases of autism. All right. So let's get this on the screen here. So the rate for 8-year-olds had risen as well. Researchers found the ASD prevalence nationwide was 18.5 per 1,000, or 1 in 54, about 10% higher than the 16.8 rate found in 2014. New Jersey, again, was the highest at 1 in 32 kids compared to Colorado, which had the lowest. So we're not trying to dive into why autism is on the rise. We're not going to try to give you reasonings for any of that. But what I am going to say is we all can agree that people on the autistic spectrum are becoming more and more common. Not to mention the rising mental health, in my opinion, a real pandemic in the United States. So what are our police officers being told? How are they being trained in how to deal with these things? I think that is a very, very important question. Now, for those of you who have been following me for a while, you know I'm former law enforcement. I support the men and women in law enforcement. And for those that believe that the solution is simply to take funding away from the police department and put it in other places, here is an exact counterpoint, right? Here is a very legitimate reason why that's not going to work. I believe that we need additional training for our officers. We have people who are suffering real mental health issues. We have people on the autistic spectrum that are being dealt with as normies, for lack of a better term, people who do not have these issues. And it needs to be very different. They need to be able to recognize the signs. If there is no training for this, if there is no program that they go through, how are they going to recognize the signs? Ultimately, it's going to create some severe issues. I mean, there have been people who have been gravely injured and even lost their lives because officers are not trained in this. I'll be, for what it's worth, I sent messages to the LaPorte County Police Department, the LaPorte County Sheriff's Department, LaPorte City Police Department, Michigan City Police Department, and I have yet to receive a response. I will be going to their offices to try to see if somebody there can meet with me to talk about this. I even told them, look, I'm on your side here. I'm trying to secure additional funding for you. Let's meet, talk about this. So far, I have yet to receive a response. This is troubling as well. Those of you who know me know very pro law enforcement. Which leads me into my next topic here. Bill, good to see you, man. How are you doing? So there is, I'm sure one of you out there, every one of you has at least heard of, if not watched, one of these so-called First Amendment audits. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit because I think this is something that a lot of people don't understand. They think that these people, and in some cases it's true. Let's be honest. There are some cases where these people go out and they intentionally agitate law enforcement, and it ends up creating an issue. I have watched several of these auditors, and there are a couple of things that I do want to mention. Number one, we here in the United States have very, very protected rights. The Supreme Court actually ruled that it is legal for anyone, you, me, government officials, law enforcement, it is legal for anyone to film in a public area. Anything you can see from the public, right? Public roads, public sidewalks, you can film. Supreme Court has been very, very clear on this. And as an aside, just let you know, this is why you do not have to blur the faces of anyone if you're filming from a public area, right? Now, private property is a little different. Kind of get into a little, some issues there. But in public, in other words, down your street, down Main Street, on the sidewalk, even in certain government areas, government buildings, parking lots, things like that, you are completely able to film anything that you can see. Now, there are officers out there who are not trained, and this is unfortunate. They do not understand what this means. They do not understand that you cannot walk up to someone and demand to see identification. And this includes Indiana, by the way. There are certain states that are identification states, must ID. I'm only going to speak on Indiana. Indiana specifically has a statute called reasonable articulable suspicion. Okay. What that means is that a police officer, whether it's county, state, township, it doesn't matter. That officer has to have a reasonable, articulable suspicion. What do those big fancy words mean? It means that reasonable, we kind of know what reasonable means. It means that they have to have a generally acceptable suspicion. Now, this is very important. Articulable. Now, what does articulable mean? It means that you can articulate it. You can say, I thought he was breaking into that car, right? Let's be very, very clear on something. Being suspicious is not a crime. It's not a crime at all. So, reasonable, articulable suspicion, that it goes further, that a crime has been, is currently being, or will be committed. Those are the conditions that you have to identify yourself, right? And those are also the conditions that a police officer can detain you. These officers cannot just walk up to someone standing in the street filming and say, give me your ID. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, there are far too many police officers who do not know the laws. And again, you guys know me. I'm pro LE, right? Does this mean that these people should be able to just walk up to people and ask for their ID? No. The First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, these are all very protected. These rights, and again, these rights do not come from the government. The government doesn't give you these rights. The Bill of Rights, the Constitution, does not create rights for you. What it does is it restricts the government as to how they can interfere with the rights that you already have, your God-given rights, which is why the Second Amendment does not apply to firearms. It has nothing to do with guns. It has to do with the government's ability to restrict your God-given right to defend yourself. Back to this First Amendment audit thing. Excuse me a moment. So I have seen a wide variety of these. And Dave, you bring up a very, very good point. Dave says this is going to get really interesting with the COVID ID. Now, here's the thing, right? And this is what really kind of gets into the legal heebie-jeebies here, is if we have a system currently that's set up where a police officer has to have a reasonable, articulable suspicion that a crime has been, is, or will be committed, okay? They have to be able to name that crime. So let's just say, for example, that I'm gonna give you an example. I'm standing there and I'm filming a police interaction, right? I'm on the sidewalk. I'm not up close to him. I'm just on the sidewalk filming a police officer talking to a group of people. Now, the Supreme Court has also ruled that speech can also be recorded, right? And not only can you take pictures, but you can also film and capture speech that is, I forget the exact terminology, but if you, by all means, look it up, where if you can hear it, right? If they're speaking loud enough that a public person can hear it, not deep in the conversation, but standing back, if you can hear it, then you're legally, you can film it. Police officer comes over and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" Now, stick with me because this is going to be kind of long, but I really want to make sure that you understand all of it. You can change how you're interacting with the police, especially on some of these audits. Some of these guys, you can tell that they're trying to create drama, right? You can tell they're rude. You can do a First Amendment audit, and I've seen a few where you are nice and you comply, but at the same time, you have your rights and you do not relinquish your rights. So I'm standing there and I'm filming. Cops comes up to me and says, "What are you doing?" Well, it's a pretty self-explanatory question. All the guy has to do is look, right? Let me see some ID. Sir, can you tell me the RAS, reasonably articulable suspicion? What crime have I committed that you're demanding identification? Now, I've seen some of these videos where these cops have absolutely no idea what they're doing. I've seen, and some of these have been terminated, right? So there was a police officer, and the one that I saw where he was actually working security for Nordstrom's, and these guys, he stopped his car and jumped out and told them to stop, and he wanted the ID of the driver. First of all, he didn't get pulled over. The guy jumped out. Second of all, the guy said, "Hey, you need to have a crime that you're charging me with or that you suspect me of doing." And the guy actually said, I don't need any of that. I'm a cop. I can do what I want. These are not good cops. I will defend good police officers to my dying breath because they represent the vast majority. But at the same time, these officers need to be better trained. Why is it that law school, that getting passing the bar, getting to be an attorney takes many, many years, right? But being a police officer takes 6 weeks? Let's see. Let's see what Google says. How long does it take to be a lawyer? There it is. Look at that. So it will take at least 2, but no more than 7 years to complete all requirements for your Juris Doctor, that's JD, professional law degree. The ABA mandates that you complete at least 83 semester hours. Most Indiana ABA approved law schools require an average of 90 semester hours for the JD degree. Okay, so it takes average of 90 semester hours for the JD degree. Now, how long does it take to be a police officer? Over 600 hours of training in a variety of areas, but the Academy's basic course, okay, here it is, 13 to 19 weeks on average. The second one here. 13 to 19 weeks on average, but can last up to 6 months. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that our police officer's not trained. What I'm saying is that I wonder how much of that training is in the right place. There seem to be, and I've had family members who are police officers. I have family members who are police officers. I am not discounting their job. It is a very, very, very hard, very dangerous job to be a police officer. What I am saying is that perhaps bringing in people who are trained in combat and trained to view everyone as the enemy is not the right way to train today's law enforcement. That's all I'm saying. I think police officers especially need to be very, very cognizant and aware of special Supreme Court decisions, like relating to the First Amendment, relating to the Fourth Amendment. There's an attorney that I watch. He's out of Michigan. His name is Jay Leto. You should watch him if you're interested in the law like I am. I found his videos to be very, very interesting. But back to Dave's point about this ID. So if the Supreme Court has ruled that a police officer cannot ask for ID unless there is suspicion that a crime has been committed, is being committed, or will be committed by that person, how does this factor in? How does this factor in? Well, to me, it sounds like maybe there will have to be a law associated with not being vaccinated. Now, that's terrifying. That's terrifying. Those of you who watch me, who also are friends with me on Facebook, may have seen me post about this. Let me show you. You can look it up. I'm not going to play the whole video, but 24,000 children. So, yeah. So this is trial site news just in Australia here, and this was actually on Google, which is kind of surprising, to be honest. So let me show you what we're dealing with here. Australian Superdome to be used to herd 24,000 high schoolers to receive the vax. Told it's a golden opportunity. Now, here's the interesting thing. It sounds wonderful, right? Let me show you without parental consent. Here's the thing. They will be going into this stadium. No parents are allowed. And let me be very clear. This is not some great conspiracy theory. This is not some underground thing. They actually had a press conference where the leadership of Australia got on there and said, we're doing this. So look it up, learn about it. Look left and right. Left claims this is a wonderful thing and it's a golden opportunity. People on the right are claiming they're taking our children, they are holding them down, and they are going to vaccinate them against parental consent, against our wishes. Now, that's a problem, right? That is a definitive problem. I want to share one more thing with you because I think it's important. There was a post that I was tagged in, and I want to share it with you because I do try really hard to represent both sides of things, right? Here it is. Okay, so a gentleman I know shared this with me and asked my thoughts on this, and I want to share with you because this happened in Texas, right? A Texas parent ripped the mask off teacher's face, and the superintendent says other parents yelled at another educator demanding she take off her mask because they could not understand what she was saying, according to the Eanes Independent School District. So here's the bottom line, right? This parent ran up and snatched a mask off the face. A parent, here it is, a quote. A parent physically assaulted a teacher by ripping a mask off her face, others yelling at a teacher to take off her mask because they could not understand what the teacher was saying while her face was covered. Our staff are on the front lines of this pandemic. Let's give them some space and grace. Please, I'm asking for everyone to be kind. Do not fight mask wars in our schools. They didn't disclose the condition of the teacher who was attacked or disciplinary action against the parent. While Travis County mandates masks in all schools and the CDC recommends that all students in kindergarten through 12th, Abbott's order prevents school districts from mandating masks in schools. Leonard said, we have no legal methods to enforce the wearing of masks. We do not make our staff the mask police with no authority to enforce the rule. Now, I want to get back to my comment so that you can see. So here's what I said about it, and I believe this. It's battery, pure and simple. It sounds like battery to me. I said there are whack jobs all across the political spectrum. I support someone's choice to wear a mask, just as I expect them to support my choices. Right? People like this are the opposite side of the forced mask / vax argument. They expect everyone to adhere to their choice. It's just as un-American as expecting everyone to mask up and get the shot. Look, the bottom line is I respect people's choices, and so should you. If someone wants to wear a mask, this is why I'm against mandating mask or no mask, any of that stuff. And I agree with you there, Dave. Dave brought up a good point. Schools are going to go with it by changing the school dress code. I agree with you. Look, sadly, We have seen this behavior before. We have seen. Tell me when the people censoring information and mandating things, forcing things, have been the good guys. Um, I'm not for forcing anyone to do anything, right? Yes, there are laws keeping people from taking your property. That's supposed to be the only thing government does, is enforce individual rights. Our government has grown over bloated. It is now far down the rabbit hole of tyrannical. And unfortunately, in order to comply with, in order for these police officers to comply with this whole ID thing, with COVID, is you can expect to see laws enacted, because you can't just come up to someone and demand their ID. There are laws against that. I'm gonna do some more in depth on this First Amendment audit thing, because I think there are good points to be made here. You, as an American citizen, should know your rights. Absolutely, you should know that a police officer, in order to demand your identification, now let's be clear, it's different on a traffic stop, right? Indiana has certain rules and regulations when you're pulled over in your vehicle. I'm talking about just walking down the street or something. Um, a cop just can't come up to you and demand to see your identification. They have to suspect you of committing a crime. Um, does that mean you tell the police officer, go F yourself, and become rude and belligerent and angry? No, no. A lot of the way that you handle yourself is going to determine how these interactions go, right? We're actually gonna have a police officer on the show at a later date, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about how difficult it is to do your job when everyone's an attorney nowadays, right? Oh, I know my rights. Okay, I hope so. By all means, learn them. Learn about these important Supreme Court cases, because in many cases, not all, I wouldn't even say the majority, but in many cases, police officers, they really don't know the limits of their authority. They don't know the rules. Um, and that goes back to their training, which is why I support better, more extensive training for our police officers, not just in how to deal with people with autism or various mental illnesses, but the average citizen, right? We really need to make, we really need to focus. Let's say that we really need to focus on our rights and how those rights affect police officer behavior. So there's that. I will keep you informed. I'm actually going to call this back to my original topic about the Delta. I'm going to call the Indiana State Board of Health Epidemiology Department, as I was advised. Like I said, they were closed by the time I could get through today after the multiple transfers and being on hold. But we're going to see what they say. I will keep you informed of. It should be interesting. The little bit that I've been able to find about it is they test a sample, right? So they take a small portion of whatever they get and they run it through these machines, the genomic sequencers. That's really all we've been told. I want a little more info than that. So I will share with you what I find out, and I will also keep you apprised as to the various police departments and their response to me in regards to training. Again, I haven't heard from anybody yet, which is very disappointing. I reached out to all three of those organizations on Facebook, and they gave standard canned responses. You know, it's not checked all the time. It's not checked 24 hours. But we'll get back to you. They haven't gotten back to me. It's been a few days, but we'll see what happens. So thank you for joining me tonight, and should be interesting. Should be interesting. God bless you. God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers Sean Holgram and Michael Beatty. Copyright 2021. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.